All right, so ripper slippers, that's one thing. If you're from the Bay Area, I'm from San Diego. I knew nothing about that. I moved from San Diego, Lake Tahoe for 10 years, then I moved out to the Bay Area. But let's hear a couple more. What is, if you're from the Bay Area, you may hear this word. Let me hear something else.
Hyphy.
What is it?
Hyphy.
Okay, all right, check this out. I never knew what hyphy. I'm from San Diego. We don't have hyphy. I never even heard that word until I moved up here. You know what else I'd never heard? Slaps, right? Where I'm from, that shit knocks, that shit bumps in the back seat, right? I never heard that to my slap until I got up here. I was working at a resort in Napa, and the dude's like, dude, that's my slap. I was like, pardon me? I didn't know what he was talking about. So I heard another one. I heard, what I hear? Hyphy. What else did I just hear?
Yeah, that I mean.
Okay, all right. I can't even say that. Yes. Food doesn't slap, it smacks. Okay, thank you for this. I love it. All right, cool. We're on to something here. What does that mean, Dewey?
Jawsin?
Yeah.
Lion, full of shit.
Okay, all right. All right, cool. All right, cool. So there's obviously a method to the madness and why we're having this conversation. So I want to tell a story to you guys really quick and why this all is going to come together full circle. So Jen thinks I'm crazy. I always watch like these like crime shows and like, you know, shows about bombers and like they get into the mind, the psychological thrillers and all these things. And so how many people know who the Unabomber was? Ted Kaczynski. All right, so the Unabomber was a notorious bomber in the United States that was unfindable for many, many years. Like nobody knew who the heck he was. This was one of the biggest mysteries, and weren't able to track any of his bombs, no fingerprints. You know, I won't go through the whole story, but through the years, he wanted to have some recognition for who he was. And so he printed his manifesto, right? So he printed his manifesto after 20 plus years of being on the run, getting away with all these crimes, living out in the woods and just, you know, living this life and like thinking he was this mastermind, which he was up to this point. Well, he prints his manifestos, and based on the way that he wrote, that's how they were able to find him and know that it was Ted Kaczynski. Because the way that he wrote, the words that he used, the speech patterns that he used, the phrases that he used, not only aged him, spoke about where he was, so, you know, for example, hyphy and all the words that we just talked about, but they were able to identify patterns. So his brother's wife read these manifestos that were published in every major publication and said, wait a minute, I've seen this style of reading before, or words, and look back at some letters that Ted Kaczynski had sent to his brother years and years prior, put the words together and like, it is the exact same patterns, it's the exact same words. And so the FBI was able to find him because of his words and his speech patterns. The reason I talk about this is because I think it's prevalent in what we do, and not saying to this degree in the FBI and all this, but what I'm saying is that when you speak to clients from wherever they are, everyone has their own different type of speech patterns and things that they connect to. We've all had scenarios where it might have been a little tough to connect with somebody, might have been tough to get through to them because we weren't aware of how that person communicates. And I'm sure that we've all faced this in our career. If you're newer to sales, this is a fucking completely foreign environment, right? I am comfortable talking the way that I talk because this is the way that I've operated, and I've never had to adjust and change the way that I speak or my pattern or my behavior or the words that I use because I was never in an environment where I needed to, right? If I worked in a fucking cubicle for the last 20 years and I answered phones, I don't need to ever speak to somebody in person or deal with all these multiple personalities and these multiple different emotions. So the point being is that as you develop in your career and in real estate, you're going to find that you're going to become a master at communicating on different levels and using words and speech patterns based on who's in front of you. By a show of hands, how many people have done their DISC profile or done their crystal nose test? Okay. Early on in your career, if you have not done that, I want you to, and I'm going to share the links in just a moment here, do your DISC profile and do your crystal nose test. Because first things first, you have to be aware of who you are and the dominant style that you communicate. And if you think about that and you understand that and you know that, it's going to allow you to identify what other people's dominant communication style is. How many people have ever had a situation where they were just not able to connect with the person, that they were not vibing with the person? Yeah, it happens, right, Eric? And the moment you find out how to get into this person's mind and use the words that are going to connect with that person, something flips, something flips. You should be able to talk to somebody and then the first couple minutes, be able to catalog that person based on a DISC profile and say, you know what, this is the way that I need to speak to Patrick Holleran. This is the way this dude receives information. This is the style of words that I'm going to use. If Patrick is a high D, the last thing I'm going to use is words like energy and passion and connection and the universe and let's fucking hold hands and kumbaya, right? It's going to be like this, that, here's anything else. Cool. Tom will call you back in 5 minutes, right? So once you identify what your own style is, you'll be able to see those styles in others, but it's going to take some work. So what I want you guys to do is, first off, let me share my screen. I pulled up a couple things here to share with you guys. And if you haven't done this yet, I want to encourage you. And if it's been a while, do it again. So if you guys go to tonyrobbins.com, you guys can go here and you guys can go all the way to the bottom of the screen and you'll see this here, the DISC assessment. If you have not taken your DISC assessment since you've started with Fast Real Estate, or if you have one, please post it in Slack. We have a new agents channel. Make sure to post that. And then do the homework. Like go through the DISC profile and find out, well, what the heck is this thing? Who am I? What is my dominant communication style? And I'll give you some examples here. So I pulled up Karina's on Slack just so you guys can see this. And these are all here. You guys can go and review these at any time. If you know Karina at all, this totally makes sense that she's in high S and a high C. We're not going to go too far into this because I want you guys to understand this, but I wanted to read this to you. Your natural style. The natural style is how you behave when you are being your most natural. It is your basic style and the one you adopt to when you are being authentic and to your true self. It is also the style that you revert to when you're under pressure or stress. Behaving in the style, however, reduces your stress and tension and is comforting. When authentic to the style, you will maximize your true potential more effectively. Your adaptive style. This is how you behave when you feel you are being observed or how you behave when you are aware of your behavior. The style is less natural and less authentic for you and your true tendencies and preferences. When you are forced to adapt to the style for too long, you may become stressed or less effective. So just thinking about that, you guys, some of you have a great time communicating with a certain type of person. So first things first, I want to talk about that. Knowing who you are as an individual, knowing your communication styles, who do you feel that is your natural ability? Who do you connect with in just your most natural ability? Who can you sit down with like, God, I love talking to this person. And then we're going to go to the flip side of that and be like, who are the most challenging people and conversations that you have? So I'm going to go over to Cynthia. I know you're driving really quick, but Cynthia, I know you're super aware of this. You're keen on this. So let's have this conversation.
Oh, yeah. So can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'm a high I, which is like the cheerleader, like someone that's super supportive, shit like that. And the hardest folks that I have a time, like I can't communicate well with high Ds because I like to use fluffy words and I like to use the universe and connections. And then the folks that I have the easiest time with is other I's and then S's. I love talking to S's because they're just, you know, steady and stable. It's not a whole lot of up and down emotion. They're just kind of level-headed.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So you are a high I, and if you guys know Cynthia, and if you know anything about this profile, she is the epitome of that. Absolutely. I love this. Eric, let's hear from you, brother. Who do you feel that you communicate the easiest with just based on your natural behavior and your natural style?
I don't know. You know, when I was young, I used to be pretty shy, but as I got older, I got more and more extroverted. So I feel pretty comfortable talking with most people. Maybe I agree with Cynthia a little bit where I'm a high I for sure. And, I obviously connect with my eyes more easily. And that's why Cynthia and I can just talk for days. But yeah, maybe high D's too. I don't know. I mean, it's like sometimes I have a hard time communicating with Kenny sometimes because he's so like data and like beep boop bop boop beep boop. I'm just more like you know what I mean? So I think that's a good point.
You know what? I appreciate you saying that, because let's think about our senior leadership team. When we think about our senior leadership team, we're probably all letters, right? Kenny is definitely, him and I are polar opposites, right? I'm the emotion of the company. I'm the touchy-feely. Hey, how you doing? He's just like you said, boop, boop, boop. He's the numbers. He's the data. So when I talk to Kenny, it is straight facts, this, that, here's what we're going to do. Here's the numbers. Here's the result. Anything else? Cool. I'm not, hey, bro, let me get a hug. When I'm talking to Molly, it's different. What's up, E? How we doing? Oh my God, the baby looks cute. There's some subtleties, greetings, salutations, all these things. And so I know how to adjust my communication based on who they are. So Eric, you're absolutely right. Kelly, let's hear from you. Knowing your style and how you communicate, super poised, super laid back. Who do you feel you connect with easiest based on your natural communication style?
To be honest, I'm not familiar with the DISC profile. I have never really checked it out, so I need to do that. I mean, I think I can communicate pretty well with most people. People who bug me the most are like emotionally unstable.
Okay.
I don't know.
So is it emotionally unstable or is it overly emotional? So I want to understand that. I want to unpack this for a minute.
Let's see. People who are like overly dramatic about shit that doesn't need to be dramatic.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you. Are you talking to me directly?
No, literally not you.
I'm messing.
No, I'll give you an example. I was, one of the clients that I was in escrow with, just super, like, I could just, like, I didn't want to hold her hand. I couldn't, I couldn't, super dramatic. Like, I feel like she needed maybe a boyfriend or a glass of wine or something. And I had to take a back seat and let the partner I was working with figure it out. Cause it was like, Jesus Christ, I can't.
All right. So do you feel that learning with her, you're going to have some skills that you can now transfer over once you do have somebody that needs a glass of wine, needs a boyfriend, super dramatic, and might be able to have a skill that maybe will talk to her in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely eye-opening, and normally I'm very intuitive and patient, and I mean, taking care of my grandmother with Alzheimer's for the last 5-6 years, I'm like the most patient, the most loving, the most kind. But like people who are just like extra like dramatic and like don't think things through and like aren't reasonable, that shit bugs me.
I hear you. And hey, welcome to sales, because you're going to deal with tons of that for your career, like tons of that. That's the norm, right? I'll give you like some insight to myself. There was a time where dealing with the over analytical people, the engineers, the accountants, those were the conversations that I was most challenged with, because I am high energy, high octane, high emotion. And then those people just want straight data, facts, and give you the numbers. Let's take a Shark Tank example. You could go in and have this amazing product and stand in front of the sharks and be like, I have this great product and it does this, it's going to change the world. Great. Well, now let me get into the data, right? You're always going to have Mr. Wonderful say, Mr. Wonderful is not like sunshines and rainbows. He's like, tell me the numbers, right? And so it's like, that's the way he's going to receive information. The lady on the far end, I forgot her name, that's from QVC, she might be the more touchy-feely person. But the way that I need to communicate with Mr. Wonderful is, hey, this is what my margins are. This is what my expected margins are. This is if I offset this cost, how I can reduce my margins. And this is where our projected growth is for the next 24 months. who's in with me, right? Ooh, okay, now you're speaking the language of Mr. Wonderful. So Kelly, as you grow in this career, you're going to learn so much about yourself, and you're going to learn so much about others and how they communicate. So this is a good conversation. I'm going to go over to Jen. Jen, I know that you've read that book a couple times, the Social Style Handbook. I highly recommend that you guys get. I'll put some links in the bottom. But Jen, I know that you've studied this. What's your thoughts on this? Like, who do you relate to the most, and what's the hardest for you?
So, like, naturally, I am a super high S and C. So I'm really stable. I'm just really similar to Kelly. Like, I'm chill, laid back, I'm easygoing. But I think naturally, I have a hard time connecting with eyes because I don't have a lot of energy like you do, Elias. So I guess, but being in sales, and obviously working with so many different type of people, I've learned to adapt to basically every social style, because that's how what you have to do. You have to be a chameleon in this business. You can't just be like, oh no, I only want to work with high S's because that's who I relate with. Because when you go into a listing appointment, you're more than likely you're going to deal with people that are super high D's. So tons of Kennys and a lot. And I think at first I used to be so scared to talk to direct people because it's just like, they're just straight shooters. And I'm just like sweating in every listing appointment. So naturally, it's harder for me to relate with people that are super, super emotional because I don't have a lot of emotions.
Yeah, and you know what, this is, I love this conversation because what you guys are going to find, and obviously you probably know this, sales is not about, oh my God, let me say all these great things, cross my fingers and hope for a fucking voter to buy into what I'm doing. It's not sales, right? Sales is truly, truly being a master at communication, right? Being able to, in 10 seconds of speaking to somebody, being able to identify, how do I speak to this person? How do I connect with this person? What words, like we were talking about hyphy in the Bay Area words, what words does this person use that's going to tell me how I need to communicate with them? Well, the data shows and evidence and shows all this proof, and there's a risk aversion, and I crunch my own data. Okay, cool. I have to have a data conversation with this client. Or it's just, how does this feel? And I want to make sure I'm comfortable with the kids, and there's a daycare and there's a park, and I want to be able to skip and smell the roses. Cool. My tone changes. My approach changes. The way that I communicate. And oh my God, I have a son, and my girlfriend has a daughter, and she's 9, and what a great community. And oh my God, right? The style of your communication changes based on who you're with. But if you don't study this, what do we always do? We lead with who the heck we are, which obviously is comfortable, and we don't adapt. The agents that adapt the best in this business and can walk into any room. Hi, how are you? Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Great. Hi. And being able to connect, like Jen said, as a chameleon in any type of environment, those are the people that are going to really see long-lasting success. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I want to add on to that too. I think that, I never heard of the DISC thing before I joined real estate, right? And it makes sense when you're a salesman. You want to learn who you're going up against and learn their communication style so that you can mirror them, right? And it's almost like you're diffusing a bomb. You say the wrong thing and it's going to go off. Boom, you're done. Like, you just said the wrong thing. Now this guy thinks you're a jackass and he's done with you. But conversely, it's like you can snip the blue wire and just make that connection, break down that wall, you know what I mean? And I think that happens a lot with clients when you're out. They're unsure of you, you know what I mean? And that first 5 minutes is the buy-in stage. And it's you kind of make that connection right there and then, you know what I mean? And so I think it's really interesting to learn different personality styles, because as Jen said, it's you have to read the room and you have to read your client and act accordingly. Like I said, I'm a high I, but if I'm with a high D or whatever, I'm going to mirror them. I think it's all about mirroring them so that they feel comfortable with you. And then you can buy their trust that way. So.
Totally. Absolutely. I absolutely agree. So you guys, I worked for the Hyatt before in Carmel, overlooking the ocean, beautiful timeshare resort. It was actually a right to use resort, beautiful, beautiful resort. And every single year in Carmel and in Monterey, they do the Concours d'Elegance. This is one of the most fanciest car shows in the entire world. Every single year, Ferrari Club comes out, Rolls Royce, they're out on Pebble Beach. All the cars are out there. And so people stay at this resort in Carmel in the Highlands. Well, it was a timeshare resort, or right to use resort. And so you could purchase a week that you can use every single year for the Concours d'Elegance week. Those weeks started at $39,000 and they went up to $70,000 for 1 week of vacation every single year in the same room overlooking the ocean every single year. So you're at the resort, the marketing team books an appointment. You as a salesperson get to greet this person, give them a tour, and tell them about the resort and how to become an owner. Obviously, if you're a Ferrari club, you want to be there that week, you want to have all your cars there. Well, I dealt with this guy, and my family's from New York and from New Jersey, and I've never been. Well, this guy, total jerk. Yeah, what do you got? Yeah, listen, you got this amount of time. I'm going to tell you. All right, so listen, I'm going to speak fast because you speak fast, and I'm going to tell you exactly what this program will do for you, and you're either going to like it or you're not. What I need you to do is I need you to let me get through it. And if you don't like what I'm saying, just tell me, but at least let me get my value proposition out. Can you give me that? Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. So as soon as we met, he thought he was going to dominate me. He had this personality that he was just going to bulldoze over me because he was from New York. And I'm like, hold on a second. As soon as I identified that, I met him where he was. We had a great dialogue. The dude purchased 2 weeks Concours d'Elegance for $70,000, put it all on a credit card. He's like, you know what? You're an asshole. He's like, but here's my credit card. I was like, you're a dick, man. Let me take that. And we just laughed and we did dinner that night. And the dude played the piano in this big grand old lobby overlooking the ocean. And I'll never forget, like, you're an asshole. You're a dick. Give me your credit card, right? But that was just the style because he felt so comfortable with me because I was able to communicate the way that he received information. So I want to ask you guys, I'm sure you guys have all had some wins in your life. Can you describe or do you know of a time in your life where you were up against a tough situation and you were able to communicate with this person and get them to buy in and get them on your side, whether it was in this career, whether it was another career? Do you have a challenging scenario that you remember that you're like, oh my God, through my communication, I was able to connect with this person and flip them? Do you guys have a scenario you want to share? Feel free to grab the mic. Go ahead.
I do.
Go ahead, Christina.
So a few years back, I had a clinic in the Silicon Valley in Los Gatos, and the main clientele out there, I would say, would be engineers. And I'll never forget this one time when I was sitting in the consultation room, and I don't know who's coming in. I just see names, and I have to adapt to obviously whoever's sitting in front of me. But it was definitely an engineer, and I'll never forget it. They wouldn't say anything to me. They just looked at me. I was like, hi, how are you? My name's Christina. Welcome to Laserway. I want to take, I gave them a tour. I took them into the consult room, and I was sitting there and I was asking them questions and they wouldn't answer. And they weren't even looking at me. They were looking down, and I had no idea what to do. I'll never forget it. So I just said, I'm like, it's okay if you're nervous. What do you need? How can I help you? I honestly, I had no idea what to do. But 5 minutes later, this person started crying. This lady literally started crying. And again, because it was my first time dealing with that. I mean, I would deal with, C's all the time, I would have to say. But yeah, I'll never forget it. She started crying, and then she just broke down that she was just super intimidated walking into, that type of environment, and that she really just wanted some guidance and some help and didn't know how to, go about things. But yeah, I'll never forget it. I just, I didn't know what to do, but yeah, that's a story I'll never forget.
I love it. And you guys, you'll be able to identify it. Now that you guys are going to be cognizant of this, now that you're going to do the DISC profile, now that you're going to really research your own DISC profile, you'll start to be cognizant of this. And Jen and I always say this when we're on tour, and we'll get in the car, be like, when did it happen? It hasn't happened yet. And what we mean by that, and what I reference this, is the turn. When does the turn happen? And when I say the turn, that means, when did I feel that I was truly in rapport? And yeah, Kenny, I already dropped that link and the other link. So when we think about the turn, well, the turn is when I finally was in rapport. Well, how did I get in rapport? I found out their communication pattern, and I was able to identify that. And as soon as you connect with that, it goes from, hey, how are you guys? Good. Yeah, there's the bedroom. Yep. Here's the kitchen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Yeah. And you're almost sometimes at a fucking standstill. And until something happens, you found who they are, You found how they communicate and what words to use, and then all of a sudden you're like, dang, you see it in their eyes. And, if we've had the mask on for years and like, there it was. Jen, when did you see it? Yeah, we saw it there. Like when we were in the kitchen, the wife turned because you asked the right questions that spoke to who they are in their communication pattern. So let's go to somebody else who has a win, a scenario that they experience. Go ahead, Amy.
So working in the kitchen for many years, you deal with a lot of very intimidating, aggressive people. And obviously I am not one of those types of people, but we had a new food safety officer come in, and she was just all about business, very assertive, very aggressive. She was intimidating the hell out of all the men. And so, of course, I walk up to her and I'm like, hello, being all friendly. And she kind of reminded me of somebody. And I said, gosh, you really remind me of this woman that I used to work with. And she goes, oh my God, I know that woman. And she's like, we realized we used to work in the same restaurant at the same time, but we didn't really know each other. And so from then on, we were like best friends. I mean, she came over to my house the other day for lunch. So it's just bizarre. Like I could see her walls just come down as soon as I met. Like I wasn't afraid of her bluster and her aggressiveness. I was like welcoming. And as soon as she felt that welcomeness, like that I wasn't going to be a total bitch, she let down her walls and we actually got to know each other. And it was pretty cool.
I love it. I love it. This all reminds me of too. So, and Nicole, I'll come to you in a second. It's not just, the DISC profile, but it's like the love language book. If you haven't read that book, pick up that book and you should read it. Whether you're in a relationship or not, you'll probably be in one sometime in your life. But the point being is that a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it too, we try to communicate our style and expect the same style of communication come back to us because that's what we want, right? That's normal behavior as a human being. Instead of trying to truly identify, think about this. We're in a relationship with our clients, truly trying to identify how those people receive information and then speak to them only that way, right? And it's tough. I'll tell you what, I'll give you an example. When Kenny and I first started this partnership and he brought me on and we're like, yes, we're gonna conquer the world. Well, early on in conversations, Kenny, he interrupts sometimes. And it's no fault of his own because when Kenny interrupts, it's because, all right, dude, this is too much. Let's get back on the point. And so instead of me getting like, what the fuck, dude? Why I'm the, one of your leaders in this company and you're interrupting me? Like, dude, I'm fucking sad. Like, what the fuck, Kenny? No, I realize that when I'm talking, I need to shorten some things up, short to the point. Okay, does that make sense? Cool, we're gonna move on, right? And so it allowed me to understand, okay, how do I need to communicate with him so we can grow as leaders instead of like, woe is me, and like, he interrupted me. No, he interrupted me because he felt we should move on with the conversation. And now, like he'll depending on who it is on the call, it's funny. If there's a high S on a recruiting call, Kenny will do a majority of the talking. If it's a high I, Kenny just lets me do my thing. And so we know each other's skills now. And then based on who's in front of us, Kenny will be like, all right. And then I'll do all the talking and then Kenny, what do you think about that? So Kenny, I know that you've studied this a lot, my man. And we're talking about the DISC profile. We're talking about crystal nose, adapting our behavior, adapting our speech patterns. You want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I mean, I brought this up a couple of times. I learned it from, I went to this class, learned this, the SC class. I have seen the book. So D and I's, they like to talk, but D's are nice to talk to. They're more direct to the point. I personally am a D. D's and D's make the strongest listening agents. So there might be top agents out there you might think is whatever that adjective might be, but they get a lot of things done. They might not be your best friend, but people hired them. And then the S and C's are people who tend to talk less, but the S are nicer to talk to. That's a really easy way to think when you meet with someone, which one they are without trying to figure things out. Direct or I just talkative just to talk. I mean, some of the funnest people are, I remember in my old office, I climbed Eugene Pack, Tom Watson, and Brian Tran all had 99 I. Like they just maxed out. So like they can just talk just to talk and always something good to say. And then S and C's, S are like really great for admin. because they're calm, they're steady, they get, and the C is really super analytical. So those engineers or accountants or attorneys, they're less fun to talk to. So just depending on who you talk to, you gotta figure out personality. Most real estate agents are IS. If you look that up, look up this in real estate. Most real estate agents are buyer's agents when you first start. So IS, you come in because you want to talk to people, your relationships, you know, all that. But then as you get into the nitty gritty and you want to work direct with sellers, this is something I've seen like newer agents, they don't get it. They think like, I have no problem arguing with seller, but if I make a point and this for their best interest. So you have to be very very direct with the seller, and you'll get in quarrels with them, but at the end of the day, the results are there, and that's why people will hire you. So that's some quick tips on determining who's a D, I, S, or C personality type.
Yeah, and like I said, you guys do the work and dive in, and you guys have the links below if you haven't done this. And if it's been a while, like go back in and dive. And Jen, if you could put the link to that book that we have. Nicole, you had something you want to chime in? Will you take yourself off of mute and give you the mic?
Oh, I was give an example of a scenario. My first career was cosmetology. I did hair and makeup for 16 years, and I found that the best approach to things, because that's something people are very sensitive about and will go off on you real quick if they don't look like the picture they brought in. So I've made it a point to let people know up front, like, if you don't have no edges, this haircut's not going to look like this. But I can do this and camouflage that part, you know, to make it more custom to you, make it work for you. A lot of my clients were my clients for a long time, but they told me at first they didn't like me because I wasn't stroking their ego. I wasn't going to tell them, oh yeah, girl, you're going to come out looking just like this picture of Holly Berry. No, I'm not about to do that because I know it will come in the long run if I did pump your head up like that and turned you around in the mirror and it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. So
that's right. That's right. I love it. I love it.
Another really strong tip from my coach. I talk a lot of agents I work with. High Is, they talk a lot. So the problem is they'll just go on a tangent. And my coach taught me they're like a running train. Like you got to constantly like reel them back in. So if someone's just talking, because you get, I mean, I talked to Julie last time. She got stuck on an hour and a half call with a seller. And then when I was at the appointment, I was like, oh, like, dude, you should have done this. I went to the appointment. The guy kept going off. I repeated him. Like what you're supposed to do is repeat them, reaffirm, and bring them back. Hey, I get it. You just said this. Okay, what do you think of this? Like you got to keep like bring them back in, move them on. Otherwise, you could be stuck forever on a call. And then when I met this guy in person, I was like, wow, this guy is like went crazy. And then I'm not gonna share a story today, but we ended up not working with him. But like you gotta know some of the stuff so you can get people on track. Otherwise, you can lose hours on like nonsense.
You guys have to be really good. And being a coach, I mean, I've coached thousands of agents now in my career. There's times where I'm on a coaching call and you've been on coaching calls like, okay, well, let's stop there. We're getting a little off track and let's bring it back to this topic. And like being able to be that lever on the train tracks to send people in a different direction, that's a skill, you guys. When you learn that, be like, okay, Mr. Buyer, I hear you. You said this, but let's get back onto this topic and like push the conversation back somewhere else. That's something that takes some practice and time. So Jaya, you raised your hand. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're learning the tactics, how do you do it without being fake? Like, I don't want to come across as, like, I don't understand what I am or who anybody is and how to apply that. I just tend to get along with a lot of people, but I don't really know why or how. So this seems like a really great tool and would help explain all that. But I would be nervous about being fake or perceived wrong if they try to match their kind of conversation.
Do you have children, Jaya?
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
2.
And how old are they?
10 and 4.
10 and 4. Do they receive information differently?
Very.
Very. So give me an example. Tell me about your 10-year-old.
My 10-year-old is very gentle, very kind, very soft-spoken, and very reserved. And then my 4-year-old is going to be a CEO of some fucking billion-dollar company because he does not take no for an answer.
Right.
I used to call him stubborn. Now I call him determined. So
I take it you're probably a little
he won't take no.
You're probably a little harder on your 4-year-old. And when you're talking with your amiable 10-year-old, you're probably so Jay, you're already doing it. So you're already doing it. And it's not saying that
Okay.
you're being a fake mom, right? You were just saying, okay, what's your oldest one's name? What's your
Kai and Riker.
Kai. So the way that you communicate with Kai might be a little different than the way you communicate with Riker. You're still the same mom. You just adjusted based on the way that they receive information and the way they communicate. So as a mother, you're already doing it, right? Now we just got to do it with adults. And so what you'll do is you'll start to dive into this and learn this. And it's not about being fake. It's just about adapting. I'm not going to use no fucking words that that aren't true to me, but I might be able to shorten up some things. I might be able to not be as emotional as I normally am until I get to that level with that person and be able to use stats, figures, charts, graphs, things like that, that speak to an analytical mind, right? And so just being able to know how to adjust your communication pattern doesn't make you a fake person. It just says that I'm an adaptable person, right? I'm going into a presentation. I have a CFO, a CEO, the board of directors. I might have to say different things in my presentation that are going to cater to different people in the room, right? Here's the big picture. Here's the data. And here's the people and how it's going to affect the people, right? So my presentation was still my own, but what I did is I had key points of my presentation that are going to hit everybody in the room. So it's the same.
Okay. So you're not mimicking them in the sense of trying to match them like that. You're just adjusting your presentation.
You're adjusting the way that you communicate based on how they receive, just like Kai, just the way they receive information. All you did is adjust it as a mom. I might have been a velvet hammer over here, and I might have been a fucking hammer over here, right? But you're still the same.
Okay.
Still the same.
Okay. Perfect. That makes way better sense. Oh, what the hell? Hold on.
I need to draw a couple more links on this, but another easy way to is DISC. High Ds wear red, white, black, and gray. Like my entire wardrobe is like black and white and gray. I don't have blue and purple. I literally don't have colors in my wardrobe. High Is, they're like, super happy people. So imagine floral colors, yellow, purple, pink, whatever. S is more like I don't know, calm colors. And then C is probably mostly gray. So I'm gonna find some links. I remember I dropped it before, but so when you're identifying someone, stop when you meet someone, don't talk. Just see how they greet you, see what words they use, see what they're wearing, see what car color they're driving. And then right out the bat, you can kind of lean towards another way. Because the person driving a purple car is probably gonna be pretty nice to you, right?
Totally. And you'll know, like, from greetings and salutations, Jaya, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, like the way someone shakes your hand, the way they look at you, the length of time that they held your hand. Hi, how are you? It's really, really nice to meet you. Oh, hi. Right? Like you'll feel it instantly, right? Or the non-huggers, you go in for a hug, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. We've all had those situations. And so when you're cognizant of this, Jaya, and you do a little bit of digging on this, you're going to identify it right away. You're like, wow. You could even look around the room, know, okay, how does Kenny communicate? How does Elias communicate? Vastly different, right? Vastly different. But I think that's what also makes us a pretty dynamic team, is because we're able to adjust and speak to so many different types of personalities. So let's hear from one other person on this. Does anybody else have a win or an accomplishment of a tough situation? Quan, go ahead, sir.
I have more of a question. So you guys were, on the topic of like reeling conversations in. We're talking to people that are high I, right? I have this problem. I would say this is a challenge of mine. Is I like to talk. I like to, I'm personable. I like to know people. I think I am definitely a high I, and a D and whatnot. But sometimes talking to people who are in a similar type of characteristic or similar pattern, so one thing that just listen to what you guys are saying. I was thinking, would it make sense for me to use the mirroring technique, for me to like repeat what they say to like kind of interrupt their pattern, or should I, or would that actually egg them on more to kind of even keep going? So like, what would you say would be the best way, like as an example, to like reel them in? Like, do you just actually stop them, like interrupt them and be like, wait a minute, or like, so let me make sure I understand what you're saying, or.
So just so I understand, so this is somebody that falls in the same category as you, like you're saying is a high I and you're a high I?
Yeah, someone who just like once you get them talking, they're just like everything, just keep going.
It sounds like a fucking party to me, but
it is.
It sounds like a damn good time to me. But it's like okay, I'll give you an example. Melody on our team, similar to my style and like energy. We had dinner with her and her husband last night, and it's like, cool, we can have all this, but all right, cool. Let me stop and let me get you back on track, and let's talk about something else. That's where my D comes in, right? Because I'm a high I and then D. So it's like my I is here, my D is here. That's when you'll be able to say, all right, cool. This is all fun and games, but let's get back to business. So topic number one, let's go to here. Train track, pull that fucking lever, send the train in a different direction immediately. And you don't, people don't feel like you're being an asshole. Like, all right, come on, I'm going to stop you there. Let's talk about this. We got a lot of stuff to cover right now. Let's talk about 1, 2, and 3 now. And then you just took control of that conversation. Become a master at pattern interruptions and taking control back of the conversation, because you will have energy sucking vampires in life and in business that will take you on this, and not saying don't listen, but when it's just like, oh my God, how much longer can I take of this? You got to stop. Best use of my time. I got to get you back on track. All right, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to table that for the minute. We got to get back on track and talk about this, Quan. Let me ask you a question, and then flip the script on them, man. Flip the script on them. So it takes a little work, because what we want to do is we want to listen. If you ever get to the point where you're like listening and you're like, when the hell is this going to end? You need to do a pattern interruption. You just need to do a pattern interruption.
Copy that.
Yep. And this is something I've learned, from my years in business. Also learned from Kenny and working alongside of him and figuring out our flow. So good question. What else, you guys? Anybody else want to has a question, or anybody else want to share a win that they had in a particular scenario in their life that they want to share in this environment?
So I have something to share, but it's not a win. But when this like technique is great when partnering up, when you're doing partners with like team members. I always, if I partner up, I try to partner with someone that's the opposite of me, especially basically where I don't. Yeah. So the opposite of me, because if you go on an appointment, especially a listing appointment, and you have two agents that are high I's, no one stops talking. Everyone's going to just be talking over one another. So it's important when you're teaming up with someone is to try to work with someone that's the opposite of you, because it allows you to be able to read the room better. And sometimes you just don't connect with that client, but your partner will connect with the client.
And Jen and I have partnered on many deals, and this could not be more prevalent and more real in our scenario. We are totally different in the way that we communicate, but when we're with a client, they call it the 1-2 punch, right? We got a review from a client. They're like, it was the 1-2 punch. And I think that's important. I don't want to partner with somebody that's completely with me on a deal. I'd rather partner with a Jen, with a Kelly O'Gorman, with somebody that has a different speech pattern and a different personality style. So then that way we're really, really catering to the client's needs. So that's a really, really good point, Jen. So before we head out, does anybody else have anything that they want to share on this topic before we get to the tail end of coaching? Okay, cool. Awesome, you guys. Really, really good work today. I want to go around the room. I want to hear what some of your takeaways were. I'm going to go to one of our guests, Patrick Holleran. Patrick, what were some of your takeaways? And once again, brother, thank you for coming to group coaching. What were some of your takeaways from today's session?
Definitely how important doing the DISC assessment and figuring out really how to best communicate with people. I think that's definitely, many people have touched on that today, just how important that is.
Awesome. And this will be an ongoing lesson in life, promise you. And you will get better and better and better. I feel, and this is not being pompous, I feel that I could connect with almost any human being because I've studied this, I understand communication, and it wasn't always like this. I was this hard-nosed kid from the streets. One thing you can say was going to piss me off, and I'd lead with my emotion, right? But I learned over the years. So Patrick, good insight. Let's go over to Austin. Austin, what were some of your takeaways from today's session?
Honestly, just kind of taking your time and evaluating the situation. I feel like a lot of people were saying that they would kind of like rush into things and they wouldn't really take a step back and just kind of observe what the person was kind of giving off, because energy is a big thing. And I heard that multiple times with the different, and what are they, personality types, where each energy kind of gives off something else. So just kind of observing and making sure you actually read the situation.
Yeah, great insight, my man. Let's go over to Daniel Johnson. Daniel Johnson, what were some of your takeaways from today's session, brother?
Kind of the same thing. So reading the room. One thing, like I don't know if you guys have ever been in the room or met somebody that's just really quiet and they don't like to talk. That kind of just opened my eyes a little bit. You know, there's those people that don't really communicate and they're comfortable being that way. So if like you might have people that like talk just out of being nervous, so that might kind of ruin that communication style, just because those people don't like to talk as much. And if you get a little nervous, you might lose that person, you know. But yeah, just studying the different disc types. Got to get on that for sure.
So you guys, all the links are down below. Make sure that you guys do your disc profile and then put in Slack. That way we can share and get to know each other even better. Eric K, our spirit animal, my man, takeaways from today's session. Any feedback, insight on this, Eric?
Yeah, this is something like that I've been working on forever, and like, you know, Kenny really, you know, he's the one that really brought it to my attention that it's a thing. I mean, like, this fool will tell me that he wears blue to listing appointments just because that's what fucking, you know, that's how you win an appointment, from even the color you wear, you know what I mean? It goes that deep, and I think it's super interesting to be cognizant of that. You know, and it's like you apply this to not only business, but like to your personal relationships too, and understanding people in general. And so I think it's not a skill that you learn overnight, but you know, it's definitely something good to be cognizant of. So,
For sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely. I remember hearing that one time too, like, oh, you can always trust a man in blue. Like, okay, I'm wearing blue to this appointment, right? Don't wear a red shirt. Look at Quan, right? You know, you're not gonna wear a red shirt to an appointment because like red is fire, red, you know, elicits some type of thought. So I love that you said that, Eric.
You think Blue Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, right? Those are the most trustworthy brands in real estate, and then Facebook and IBM, and I'm sure you can think of tons more. Zoom, Safari, like Blue just makes people trust you. It makes them calm. You go to an appointment with a red dress or a red shirt, it's just going to send the wrong signal. I don't know what that sends. It's just going to be a weird dynamic at that appointment.
For sure. Let's hear from a couple other people. Quan, let's hear your takeaways from today's session, brother. And thank you once again for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this amazing session. I mean, I think it's something that it reminds me how important DISC assessment is. I've taken it with the, you know, because I have a coach through the Tony Robbins Institute, and I remember taking DISC early, but then I thought it was just for that. But then, you know, and my previous mentor also mentioned DISC, but I haven't really dived in. So, you know, hearing it for the third time, I'm like, okay, I really need to really get in on this and really study this and understand it, because I think, you know, a lot of time, like, you know, I have another company where I think my personality is like basically like I just tell people what to do, but now it's like I'm like, okay, I got to understand, you know, even from a leadership standpoint, it's best to understand what's going on and then be able to like Bruce Lee say, be like water, right? Be like water. So you got to be able to like adapt and change up your style, and that way, you know, your communication will be so much more effective. On that note, there's something you mentioned earlier about, so there's a disc and then there's also something called the crystal something.
Crystal nose. And before we head out, Quan, grab that link. It's in the chat below. So the crystal nose and the quite a few different things here in the chat. Grab all the stuff. Crystal nose is in there. Tony Robbins profile, the book for the Social Styles Handbook, a few gems in there. So grab those before we head out today, you guys.
It's in the just in the chats, right?
In the chat. Yep, the links are all in there. So let's go over to Khadijah really quick. Khadijah, takeaways from today's session, and then Cynthia, I'm going to have you wrap up the meeting.
Can somebody copy the chat and email it to me because I'm in my car?
What's that?
Would somebody be a sweetie and save the chat and email it to me because I'm in my car? It won't let me.
You got it. Yep, you got it. I'll do that. All right. So
my takeaway is just how important it is to be able to match the person that you're speaking to or to understand them. And I need to see about the disc my own self, and I'm definitely going to follow the links.
Yeah, and I love it. You guys, becoming a master communicator is the way that you become a master salesperson. It's not knowing all the words to put together and, oh my God, I have this great product and hear all this data that I just dumped on you. That's not sales, that's telling, right? a great salesperson is an amazing communicator. So become a master at communication and the sales will follow because you're able to connect to a larger audience. So let's go over to Cynthia. Cynthia, I know that you're driving, but as a squad leader, feel free to give us your takeaways. And I want to thank all the squad leaders for being here. We have Eric, we have Dewey, we have Cynthia, who are all part of our leadership team, who I've seen grow tremendously. So thank you guys for your insight and being here. But Cynthia, let's hear takeaways and take us off the field today.
So isn't the DISC profile, and Crystal knows the Enneagram, isn't that part of onboarding? That's part of our onboarding checklist, correct?
Yeah. So if some people haven't done it, that's why I just reiterate it.
Got it. Okay, awesome. So let's make sure that we all do that because
and Cynthia, not everyone on the call is with our company.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Totally understand. Yeah. So it's really important though that we do this so that we know who we are, right? And so that we can adapt. But also I look at the Slack channel where we host all those folks that are in our team and that have done the DISC profile. I'll look in there and see who I can bring with me to a listing appointment because I'm a high I and I need a D to chill me out and bring in more level-headedness. So that's super critical. I'm so glad we had this conversation today. You guys go out there and absolutely kill it this weekend. Make sure you stay hydrated. It's gonna be hot. And smile. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling like, man, this client's getting to me, put on some good tunes and fucking smile. Make yourself smile because the chemicals that get released, it's just gonna boost you back up. So fucking smile. That's my glory of the day.
That was the mic, it just got dropped. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you, literally, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for your insight. And just thank you for joining us every single week. So have a wonderful day. I will see you guys on Monday where we talk about motivation, intentions, and goal for the week. And make sure if you haven't hit your goals for this week, you still got the whole entire weekend. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, you guys. Bye now.
All right. You too. Thank you.